Hello, and welcome to Feather of Truth, Chapter 3 and Chapter 4. Welcome to this video. This week actually was a very light week as far as reading and attaining information about the foundation of the path. We spoke about tools, and again, tools are really there to help us along our way, but they are not everything to the path. So it's just really important that when we select tools that we're going to be using, that we really are mindful in how much we acquire. So I talk about it during the classwork, I talk about it in the book. I just want to make sure that this is mentioned one last time, just to make sure that we are really getting the items that really are meaningful to us. The longer you're on this journey, the more tools you'll acquire, I promise you that. I have so many tools now and such an abundance that I oftentimes offer them as gifts when I no longer use them, since their energy is still very powerful. But for me, there's some very, very key important tools that I like to talk about, and one of them is crystals. Crystals to me are such an important part of our life force here on Earth. The minerals, crystals, and stones that surround us are living just as much as we are. They are below our feet, they are within our mountains, they are in our oceans. And I just feel that it's very, very important that we just don't skim by them, that we recognize they are a huge part of the path for many. And so today I thought I'd just kind of go over the importance of those for me. Now, here's just a couple of examples. If you are now just beginning this journey, and when you get into meditation work, if you feel like you're having a hard time grounding, right? You're having a hard time kind of coming back into body. And oftentimes this happens when we first start to meditate. We really enjoy the meditation feeling. We love the euphoria from it. And then we have to kind of the next day go back to work. And it's really hard for us to function at work. We have a hard time keeping our focus. We have a hard time carry on the day-to-day functions of life. So one of my favorite stones for that is hematite. Hematite is a great tool to help us ground and center. So I just wanted to kind of mention that today because that will help you. One of my other favorite tools is, as far as stones and crystals go, is selenite. And selenite is actually newer to us. It's more recently found. You can get it in all kinds of sizes. And I use selenite often when I'm just trying to release all negativity, trying to kind of regroup to my center. I find it to be very, very helpful. It's such a powerful energetic living organism that it doesn't need charging or cleansing. And so oftentimes crystals, after using them for a time, will absorb what's been around that stone or crystal, and you have to cleanse it. You have to kind of clear it away with intention and other ways to really kind of reset the stone to use it again. Where selenite is great at helping that happen for other stones. So you can use a quartz crystal, for example, can now sit on top of it and get charged. So, that's kind of a really great thing. But selenite has been my go-to. This piece has been used consistently by my students when they do meditations to help them ground, and I use it for myself as well. When I'm taking journeys and doing guided meditations, I use it as a conduit, I guess you could say, to make sure I filter out and really give my students the best meditation, and I am a clear medium for that work from source. So I highly recommend selenite for everyone. It's kind of a great go-to. All sizes and shapes are available. There's also pieces you can get there, just slabs, and those are great for an altar because, again, you can place your magical items on there to get charged. So I thought I'd share that. Some of my other crystals that I really, really enjoy is the quartz. This is actually a really beautiful piece, and it has a point there, so it's kind of nice for kind of attracting energy and allowing it to expand throughout a room. We also have the sphere, and these are actually very, very popular. These are really great for gazing into, to kind of relax you and prepare you for other work, such as meditation, ritual, and going into silence, things like that. Also divination, being able to see beyond and see visions. So I do love the sphere for that. And of course you can get them in all kinds of varieties. They come in rose quartz, malachite, You can find them in hematite, tiger's eye. I mean, all the variations are out there to be found, and I do love the way it feels in the palm of my hand. Now, keep in mind that a stone of this shape is going to be a little bit pricey because they actually have to shape it and mold it, and that takes time and energy, so you're going to be paying the price for that. So keep that in mind. One of my favorite ways to deal with rocks and minerals is to actually get the raw form. And this is snowflake obsidian, which I'm very attracted to. I do tend to follow the Egyptian gods and goddesses, and so this is one of the stones that was used and notably used. And so for me, it's very, very powerful, and I really enjoy it. It helps me clear out negativity. It also opens up my spiritual mind and allows me to connect with ease even in the midst of turmoil. So I use the stone quite a bit actually, but it's a raw form. And so the raw form, again, it has its own characteristics and it has its own energy and its own feel. So that's always kind of my preference, but again, just a preference. I have so many other things I can show you, but one of the more important ones that I want to talk about now is different ways to smudge or sage your space. And so I recommend two different forms of doing that. I talk about in the book smudging, which comes a little bit later on, but the smudging concept or process is going to be very important in your practice. I use sage prior to meditation, prior to having people over to my home. I use it when I've cleaned my home, like really truly like mundanely cleaned it, and then I sage my space to help cleanse any remaining energy. As someone who goes into homes and does walkthroughs, paranormal walkthroughs, helping families work with someone who's crossed over and things like that that still reside in the home, one of the things I can tell you is I can walk into a room and I can feel the energy of the household and what happened before I got there. You know, it's kind of entertaining actually. Sometimes I can tell they've been frantically cleaning. Sometimes I can see that they were just kind of having a lazy day and all is good. And other times I get like there might have been a disagreement, or there might have been some mishap taking place. I can feel that energy when I walk into a home. So it's kind of fun for me. It's kind of entertaining because I get this glimpse of like where they're kind of how they're arriving into that moment, and so I can help them kind of ground and center and focus so they stop reeling, they're energetically reeling. But one of the things that a homeowner can do before I walk in is actually smudge a space. So I'm going to show you what that looks like. I literally just take a good old-fashioned lighter or a match, whatever feels right, and I light just one dried leaf of sage. And then I allow that smoke to rise. This is all you really need. I cannot express how much sage I see being overused with smudge wands and the bundles. I think we overuse sage, okay? We don't need to. White sage is sacred, and we need to keep it sacred to our land, and we do not need to over-harvest this herb. So I want to show you an example of how to be environmentally savvy and still sage, right? I like using the abalone shell. It's one of my favorite tools for holding my sage, so I want to show you that. And sage is a universal tool. It's actually used in many religions, and so it's kind of nice too, because I always think about the universal consciousness, and I feel like sage is something that's very adaptable and accepted by many, so I always enjoy that. And then the other that I really do enjoy is Palo Santo, and this comes from a sacred tree, and the wood itself can only come from fallen branches. So that makes you feel that much better. This is actually decaying wood that's being harvested and repurposed. So there's a cycle of life happening. So it's a very sacred way to smudge as well. And with these sticks, they're a little different. People have to get used to using them. You literally just light the wood, and you have to kind of hold the flame there a little longer than you normally would. And then once it kind of lights, you can let it sit for a minute, kind of like an incense stick when you're trying to get it going, get those ambers going. And sometimes it goes out on its own, other times you have to put it out. But as you can see, it's very much like sage as far as how it smokes. It smokes a little less of time. This is a nice piece. It's smoking very nicely. And the aroma is amazing. It's great for doing journey work, trancing, meditation, preparing yourself for deep, meaningful conversations, things like that. You also can use it before you journal every day, before you do an oracle card reading or a tarot reading for yourself, whatever's taking place in your home. So, or even cooking, I love to sage and do that kind of thing before I cook, and that way I bless my food and kind of cook it with love. So that's going good. All right, so that's just a couple of tools I wanted to show you guys. There's so many ways we can go. There's so many different tools out there for us, and I just, again, wanted to give you a few examples. Remember, the most important tool is you. And to me, that, again, is the most important. The next section that is in chapter 4, we talk about sacred symbols and space. And symbolism, I give you some examples of different symbols, and, I really feel that symbols are there to give us a physical representation of our spiritual intent, right? So we want to find a symbol that we resonate with, that is kind of like a trigger. In other words, it reminds us to be centered, to be grounded, to remember we have a higher self and a higher purpose. So when we're dealing with the mundane world and mundane life, because we have to, that's why we're here, we got to do what we got to do, then we kind of have this sense of like centeredness and feeling whole and complete, and then we don't feel like we've kind of missed anything here. So definitely just want to kind of share that thought with you. And so the symbolism is going to be really, really important. Some of my favorite symbols are the Ankh. It's the key to life. It's something that I always think of eternal, life itself, and how I'm a higher being, and I've recycled and I've reincarnated multiple times. So to me, the Ankh has its own meaning, right? And it's going to be important for you to also find symbols that, okay, yes, you understand the definition that is kind of overall broadly used, but at the same time, finding your own specific connection with it is going to be even that much better and that much greater. Just to kind of, I don't know if you can see my tattoo, it's upside down, but I use the blessing symbol, and I have it tattooed on my wrist, and it's the crescent moon, and then it has 3 teardrops below it, and I have blessed be written below it. And the crescent, I got this actually when I was working in corporate America, and we really couldn't have tattoos, so I always had it covered. But there were a couple of times where, a bangle or a bracelet or a cuff had like slipped and someone could see it, and they would ask me what it was. And so that's always kind of a fun thing, because, you don't come out of the closet. You don't tell people what you do in corporate America, because, well, they usually take offense or they think the wrong things, and not because they mean to, they just don't know differently. And I get that. But anyway, so I would explain it this way. I'm like, oh, okay, well, if the crescent moon, it is actually the blessings moon. And it happens during this time of year, and when the moon's like this, it's meant to be, the idea is it's blessings, if you're catching your blessings within the crescent of the moon. And they're like, oh, okay, that's really cool. And then these little raindrops are my 3 children. And so that was how I was able, to connect for me personally, and then also was able to explain it in my corporate world. And that explanation was actually easier for people to understand, right? And the fact that I had blessed be below that just meant that I felt blessed, right? So we can kind of find our own meaning and our own way of defining these symbols. So there's the general umbrellaed example, and then there's how you feel. And I really want to encourage that for everyone. If you don't have a symbol right now, that's completely okay. But I do want to challenge you to find something, or, in meditation, if you receive a symbol, to kind of find a way to translate that to your current life. Some of my favorite ways to use my sacred symbol is to draw it on my journal. So when I journal every day, my symbol's there. You can also place it on a piece of paper, or find a picture of it and place it in your vehicle. So when you're driving, you're kind of reminded and you see it. Sometimes you can find, a charm of your symbol and have it dangling from your rearview mirror. Again, to remind you, to help you connect. You can put it on your visor and just pull down and look at it. Maybe it has a message with a symbol next to it as a reminder of who you are, to feel empowered, kind of like an affirmation. The other way you can use it is in your bathroom. When you get ready for work every day, or you get ready for your day, you're brushing your teeth, you're reminded of that sacred symbol. So your bedroom mirror, when you're getting dressed. There's just so many different ways that you can use sacred symbols in your life. And so I'm going to challenge you guys. Not everyone has to get tattoos like me, but we do want to kind of think of those things. So now we want to kind of think about the element of air and the different symbols that are available for it. And, you know, I really feel like smoke is a really great example of that. And by burning Palo Santo or burning the sage, we're able to receive the smoke there. Some of the other ones are the beautiful feather, which obviously the book is named after. So the feather of truth, right? And if you do some research on different types of birds and you work with totem animals, you might find a specific one that you feel drawn to. Keep in mind that not all are legal to have and own, so you have to make sure that you understand what that looks like. Excuse me. So making sure, but you can use all kinds of representations for air. There really is no limit. You know, one of my favorite representations is the owl. So it's a full bird for me. So a statue of an owl might be something that I might use for my symbol. You know, so just be really creative with that. And if you don't have it right now, no worries, no stress. You will eventually be able to get that. So we talk about the power of smudging here, which I kind of already talked about a little bit with you, making sure that we're being safe with it. And just to end and wrap up this chapter, I'm going to challenge you to find a space in your home to start having you time. And this is something that I'm going to start to challenge you with as we move forward. We want to have a journal. We want to be reading the book and doing the exercises. And we want to have a little space in our own world where we can have like me time. And the value of this is huge. In my Degree 2 class, we kind of talk about this again, and we try to find opportunities to allow ourselves to have time. And the sacred space is meant to be there to set up an inviting place to give yourself that time. And you may need to look at how you spend your days and hours, and you might need to start cutting back on some of the things that are maybe not serving your highest good. You know, we joked around last night in class, talked about Facebook and how Facebook can just suck time. And so there's like little things like that that we can consider and think about, where we maybe limit the time frame that we're on it so we can create time for ourselves, so we can be with our highest self and be with our own thoughts. And that way we are stronger as we go into the world. You know, this stuff is very, very important. And, you know, within that, creating that sacred space. Everyone's sacred space will look different. I will tell you, for me, I've had it as simple as on my couch, I had my favorite throw blanket. I would get my favorite cup and drink my coffee or my tea, depending on the time of day. And I would have one candle that I would light, just one little candle. I'd burn a little bit of sage with it, and I would just sit. And that's all. There's been other times where I've had a coffee table that I shared with others, but I wanted to make that my sacred space at night when everyone went to bed, or in the morning before everyone woke up. And so I had this really beautiful decorative bowl, actually, that I had put stones in, and they were just like river rocks. They were nothing fancy. But within the river rocks, I had different symbols and different little statues and things that meant something sacred to me. So when people come in, they just see this nice bowl of rocks, and they might see a few other little things in there, but they don't think much of it. But for you, it's your sacred space, right? So when you sit there and you're with those items, you feel connected, right? Or you can have a drawer close by that has a couple of things that you can then lay out when you're having your sacred time. So if you don't have a space where you can set up an altar and do all these fancy bells and whistles and always have it, just know that it doesn't have to be extravagant. It doesn't have to always look that way all the time in your home. The idea is you find a space and you intentionally create it to be just that, your sacred space, right? So my challenge for you this week is to create that sacred space for yourself, okay? And then from there, we're writing our story right now, right? We're going to start exercise 1. So we want to be able to have the space to go sit, feel comfortable, feel secure, as we write, as we're being vulnerable, as we're opening up our hearts to share and express how we felt our entire adult life and going back to childhood, right? So we've got some important work to do. Let's create a beautiful space in which to do it. Whether it's indoors or outdoors is truly up to you, but let's make sure we create it. Let's make sure we honor ourselves enough to give ourselves a space that we feel really comfortable in, that feels like a big comfy sweater on a cold winter day, that just makes us feel secure and at home. So good luck with your sacred space. I hope you all have a beautiful week, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Blessed be.